Wananiita mimi Kingi Balotelli, mchezaji hodari wa mapenzi wenye shabiki anatistini bendi. Huku kwetu harufu ya benki. Wananiita mimi Kingi Balotelli, mchezaji hodari wa mapenzi wenye shabiki anatistini bendi. Gosh, thank you very much. That is the song I was supposed to perform for you. Tupigeni makofi tafadhali. Yeah, asanteni kwa kutungoja. So, Mr. Duoth, let me start with you.
Alright.
You've been living in Kenya for quite a while, right? Can you tell us your story, how you found yourself in Kenya?
Alright. My story starts way back in South Sudan. I was born on the 17th of August, 1998. But 2 years later, I was displaced from my home due to some clashes or some war that happened back then in South Sudan. So from South Sudan, that time I was 2 years when the war came. We had to go on foot, and the nearest country to our side was Ethiopia, a place called Gambela. So from Gambela, from Nasir, where I was born, to Gambela, we had to go on foot. Then from there, we linked up with an uncle of mine who directed us to come this side of Kakuma camp. So in 2000, I found myself in Kakuma camp. That's my story. And from there, in 2000, we stayed in Kakuma for a while with our family, about 4 years. And then from there, we moved to this side of Kikuyu, and we have been here since. So I guess I've lived in this land more than some people here.
So if I may ask, what brought about the clashes?
The clashes started because of these things of rebels against the government. So in South Sudan, you find that there are civilians who own guns. So when the government tries to disarm them, it's an issue. So you find there's a clash, exchange of fire, and people have to flee there, listening to gunshots every day. There was sometimes even there was shelling in our place there. So you have to go to a safer place where you can raise your kids. That is the option our parents took.
If I may ask, how has that affected your identity as a person?
It has affected my identity a lot because right now I think I would identify more as a Kenyan than South Sudanese because I know more of Kenya than I know about South Sudan. I've lived here for the past close to 27 years. I've been here. I've learned Swahili. I've learned a lot of languages, interacted with the Kikuyu people, and I've learned one or two from them. So once maybe I go back to South Sudan, I will not be like someone who was raised there. The language is going to be different because there they speak Arabic. Here, I don't know any Arabic, maybe small. So the language will be different. I would like to, you have a motherland. I would like to think of Kenya as my fatherland or my auntie land or something.
Karibu sana. We appreciate you even being in Kenya. And are Kenyans treating you right?
Kenyans are treating me very right. When I was in primary, I got lucky when I joined the primary school. The owner of the school had at some point been in the same Bible school with my dad. And I have a twin brother. So due to the economic strains at the time, my dad convinced him to consider the both of us twins as one person. So tulikuwa nasoma na we were learning with school fees of one person, two people. So yeah, Kenya has helped me a lot.
Thank you. Pastor Mokai, listening to Dwarf and the whole story and how the war in South Sudan has really affected his identity. Can you demystify the whole identity issue and talk to Dwarf in a Christian perspective?
Yeah, I think first it's important to begin, why do we end up with situations like this? So why is it that he cannot be in his motherland? Why did he have to be displaced? And I think we must situate our beginning in appreciating some of these issues from what the Bible, reveals to us when you read the book of Genesis, because God intended that there would be a perfect and harmonious world. And fundamentally, what existed in Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 2 in the creation that God had ordered was peace. That man fundamentally, first and foremost, had peace with God. And then man had peace with himself. So internally, man did not have any kind of internal conflict. Then man had peace with another. So at the beginning, Adam and Eve had peace between them. And lastly, man had peace with his environment. And so when man sinned against God in Genesis chapter 3, fundamentally, what was broken was that peace. And such that peace with God was broken, and that is why man ran away from God and was trying to hide. Peace with self was broken, and that is why we suffer from disease, unbalding and things like those. This is peace with self that has been affected. Peace with another was affected immediately. We see Adam starting to blame the wife. It is the woman you gave me in chapter 4 of Genesis. Cain kills his brother Abel because peace with another has been broken. And lastly, peace with the environment, of course, has been broken. That is why we have pollution and all those things. And what he experiences is that it is, so to speak, the result of the fall. It is the consequence of the fall. And each of us experiences that in different ways. But this is where hope lies. And this is where somebody that has gone through displacement and finds themselves in a strange and foreign land, as it were, say, for example, as a refugee. This is where you anchor your identity. In realizing that in some way, Jesus took on a refugee status. Now, it was not forceful, it was willful, but he did it so that he may, in a sense, bring an end to some of these issues. Because the earth, the world, was not the abode of Jesus. This was God enjoying the harmony of heaven, enjoying the worship of angels, enjoying the perfect existence that is heaven, and yet chose to come and dwell among a people, chose to come and take on flesh, as it were. And on account of that, then someone like him is able to see the Jesus that came in order that he may bring an end to the effects of the fall, in order that he may come and restore things back to how they were. And now he can find his identity not necessarily in the geographical location that he is in, but he can look to Christ, the one who took a different identity, as it were, for the sake that he may be able to reconcile some as him. And so I guess that becomes a good place to begin, so that now his identity is not necessarily found in his culture. It is not found in the geographical location that he is in, but rather it is now found in a person. And that becomes easy to reconcile some of these issues that come with being displaced, that come with being in a cultural context that is different from yours, that come sometimes, unfortunately, you asked him how has Kenya treated him, and I am glad it has been very positive. Sometimes we don't treat refugees well, that come even with that kind of treatment, but to be anchored and assured in the fact that there is one who came in order that he may reconcile all these things, and we can look to him for our identity.
Okay. Talking to Red Cross now, how have you been treating refugees? And have you had an encounter with a refugee?
Yeah, so majorly, of course, the work we do at Kenya Red Cross, apart from it being disaster management, I know many people know Kenya Red Cross with the disaster management. So we also have programs that are specific to refugees. And apart from refugees, we also have young people who are affected in this case. And maybe because that is our target group, I think that is what I'd like to focus on. So most of the time you find when these young people are affected, then they have problems with their mental health. So them integrating to the society, them knowing this culture. So it's always hard for them to integrate. But then luckily, because we have programs that we're running that are specific, we have mental health awareness programs, we also have initiatives that are specific, because also when they come, they don't have a source of livelihood. So then they have to be independent so that they're able to be able to cater to their basic needs. So we've had several programs, and in regards to that, that's what I would say about our work. Yeah.
What? I have two representatives. I have the church and I have Red Cross. I want you to speak to both of them. Tell me whether any of them has offered any help since you became a refugee and how they have helped you.
All right. First of all, I'll start with the church. I myself, being a Christian and getting Christian values from my parents. So when we arrived here in Kikuyu, we were lucky to get, should I call it asylum, or get a chance or a place to pray here in Kikuyu. We used to pray at PCA Church, Kikuyu. So they welcomed us. They were very loving to us, very friendly to us. So we were like one community. They considered us the way they considered the citizens. There was no difference between us and the citizens. Coming to Red Cross, yeah, there are very many projects that they are running that are helping people. Yeah, I have my sister who's currently doing an internship with Red Cross. She did a course in psychology. So I would say also Red Cross has helped in also helping her in furthering her knowledge. And this knowledge in psychology she will use to help our people back home. And those refugees who are still coming, because they are still coming, they will need psychological support, and she will be there. So thank you, Red Cross, and thank you also to the church.
Pastor Mukaya, which programs does Nairobi Baptist run that help refugees?
Good one. One of the things I've done, Nairobi Baptist generally, because I pastor Nairobi Baptist Church Kikuyu, but part of the larger Nairobi Baptist Church, one of the things we did is we opened up space for refugees, especially from South Sudan, a space where they could meet. One of the realities, for example, is mentioned, at least when they came, they were able to fit within a church. But sometimes we take for granted that even worship can be very contextual. That there are cultural nuances that come with worship, that I may go into a place and I may not be comfortable in worshiping the Lord because their culture is different. And so one of the things that we have done, especially in our church in Gongro, is offer up space. And so what that does is every Sunday we have a church that happens there, and it is purely made up of South Sudanese people. I think this particular week, they've been having an event. I was there on Wednesday. They've been having an event, I think, throughout the entire week. And so they have a space that they can call home. There's no charge for the facility. It is treated as part of the larger church. And I know one of the things that has happened as well, because we have a social welfare arm to the church, some of them have been assisted through that. I was a youth pastor once, and especially there's one girl I remember called Sarah who went through the programs of the church, one of them being a program we call Impact for those that have cleared Form 4. But also she happened to be one of those we call BAPO scholars, which are people that go through a scholarship program that we have. So those are some of the ways in which as a church, I guess we have tried to meet this particular need, albeit in a small, tiny way. Yeah.
Dwarf, how have you been surviving in Kenya? And also financially.
That's a good one. Thank you. Currently in Kenya, there is this thing that they call the Shirika Plan with UNHCR. They are trying to integrate refugees so that they can get financial support and they can be considered as part of the citizens. So right now with the refugee ID, someone is possible to get a KRA PIN. They are still working on the work permits. There's an issue with that, but they are still working on it. I guess sometime this week there will be a meeting on that. UNHCR and partners will inform the community and try to engage them and find where they can help. For me right now, and for most of the refugees who are here, most of them are being supported by relatives who luckily managed to get to outside countries, USA, Canada, Australia. So once you work and you get something small, you send back to support school of your brother, maybe your brother's son, your brother's kids, support their school where they stay maybe. And the good thing with our community is that you find that we like having kids. So you find, like my dad maybe might have 6 brothers who maybe all managed, or 4 of them managed. So all 4 will chip in. This one will say, okay, I will handle their school fees. Another one will say, their food, that is me, I will handle that. And the house will be handled by someone else. So slowly there is that helping of one another. And also, there are small jobs you can try here in the area. They are allowing people to work. Yeah, can do some handy works. I'm trying to get into some, should I call it a business, bicycle delivery. I'm trying to get into that, but you see the issue with KRA PIN and it's disturbing me a bit. Yeah, but they have opened up. The Kenyan government is trying to work with UNHCR, help the refugees. There are those who have been lucky, but for some of us, we're still trying. Yeah.
Talking of Red Cross now, can you help Dwarf now acquire KRA PIN on? Maybe even get a work.
Unfortunately, we cannot because it's not part of our obligations as an organization. Yeah, I think that is what I'd say. And in regards to work, what I would say would be we do not offer jobs at the moment because, of course, when there's a position that needs to be filled, then that is advertised and all the necessary requirements submitted, just the formal processes of job application. So yeah, I think that is the standard we abide to in terms of our employment protocols.
Okay, but I'll go back to Dwarf. There is a question that I know everyone is asking in their mind. I used to school with some of my peers were Sudanese, and trust you me, they had the latest phones. I know where I'm coming from, right? And if you go to Kilimani right now, most of the properties are owned by South Sudanese, right? So can you explain to us the dynamics and why you didn't enter here with a Range Rover and someone from your country is living large in Kilimani?
How I'd like to answer that is that in every country, and I think, yeah, every country, there are different classes of people. There are those who are up there, those who are somewhere in the middle, those who are below. So if you are lucky to find yourself maybe up there, maybe son of a politician in South Sudan, maybe your dad had a big position at the time, most of those guys, and I'm not proud to say it, they would take their children to other countries to get maybe better education or better facilities, like in terms of health. Our country is the youngest country so far. So there are so many things that are lacking, infrastructure. So there are those who carry their whole family, go look for greener pastures elsewhere. And then there are those who are, let's say, in the middle and below, who you have to struggle for yourself. So if you see those guys in Kilimani, they are, should I say, lucky that their parents had a big positions, and also right now in South Sudan, I find that there are people who are looting the money of the country and taking it elsewhere for their own benefit. They're not looking at the benefit of the rest. So you find that there are those common wananchi, as it's called here, that are struggling there. So there are those are the dynamics. There are people who are top class, middle class, and then there is the bottom class. So I'll fit myself maybe somewhere in the middle class because I'm not badly off.
Pastor Mukai, now looking at that dynamic and what is happening in our country, do you think we are headed in that direction, and what should be done?
That's a good question. There's a passage, I think, in Luke 13 where the disciples of Jesus come and they want to report something horrible that had happened. Where Pilate, I think, had killed some people and had mixed their blood with the offering, the sacrifice. And then Jesus asks them, do you think those guys were more evil that happened to them? Or those ones that the Tower of Siloam fell upon? Do you think that they were more evil? And he says, unless you repent, something worse will happen. And what Jesus was trying to say, when calamity falls upon a people, it's not because we are better off. It's not because Kenya stands right now because we are better off than South Sudan. It's not because the people of Kenya, are better people than the people of South Sudan. And the lesson maybe that can be drawn from Jesus is unless we repent, unless we change our ways, it is not far-fetched for Kenya to go the same direction, as South Sudan, went. The kind of, in the recent past, if you've just been following the common discourse, the kind of tribal language that is being propagated in our country, the rise of this goon culture where people can even enter churches and rough up people. It begins as something very innocent before this thing takes a life of its own. Before all of a sudden a community is targeted. And even when you look at the history of South Sudan and many people that have had to flee as a result of war, ultimately it takes a tribal tone because the rebels will perhaps be belonging to a particular community and the government will be belonging to a particular community, and then the two are pitted against one another, one community is disadvantaged. And so I think as Kenyans, unless we are careful, this is not something that is far-fetched. And I think God has been very merciful to us, that 2007 did not go as bad as it could have, but I guess we need to be careful, not imagining that we are some special favored people more than the rest of our neighbors that have experienced war in that way.
Okay, thank you. Faith, you've been traveling the whole country, right?
Maybe, yeah.
What's the mood in the country? And do you see yourself driving us to that road, that direction where South Sudan is at?
I would say where we are at the moment is that young people are empowered. And right now, because we know and we've also learned from our mistakes, we are prioritizing peace. So from where I am and from where the environments have been, I've seen young people advocating for peace, contributing, engaging in democratic processes. And right now, as you also saw, young people are actively taking votes, and that is the process that we should follow. Of course, when you have an issue, we follow the right processes. Young people are now more prepared to make political decisions. And I hope we are on the right path and we are going to advocate for peace.
Thank you. I think this is the time I want to offer each and everyone in the audience. If you have a question, because World had requested me that it's supposed to be before 4, right?
Yeah.
So I'll take some few questions from you before we go for a break. I don't know whether Kangaroo, you ready? Does anyone have a question on our panels?
One question.
Oh, there's someone
Here.
Yeah. Can you can take the mic and pass it over there? There is a question.
Yeah.
The question is right here.
Thank you so much, you guys. So there's an observation I made on about an MP. The same way Pastor is saying here is this idea of making people from different nations fight against each other is not a good idea. Like Burundi, I hear there's a lady called which is a large. So she was saying that these people we need to. She was inciting people against these other people. So I don't think it's a good idea. And I know Kenyans are loving people. Kenyans do not like. We're not going to end up the same barabara as South Africans. So now we are fighting against other people because they're saying they're taking our jobs. So it's not true. Yeah. So that's maybe it's not a question that I wanted to put across, but maybe make that observation and actually make other people aware of what's going on. So that Kenyans who do not know how these politicians behave, they begin to think they're saying something good, and it's not good. Yeah.
Thank you for that comment. Anyone else with a question or a comment?
Yeah, I have a question. My name is Ezekiel. Don is a friend of mine, and his friends were here. I have a question concerning the identity. You see, sometimes as we grow up, we usually have identity crisis. Maybe during adolescence, maybe during soul searching, someone trying to discover himself. So this question goes to all the panels. First of all, has Kenyan culture changed your identity in some ways or in one way or another? And as a Sudanese, I'll go here Sudanese kiasi nikubalie tu nikuja Sudanese because when in Sud, but when in Kenya, the culture and tradition that you came with from Sudan, have you continued practicing them while in Kenya? And how has it been? And at the end of the day, you now as a Kenyan, how do you identify yourself with the multicultural activities that we usually have as Kenyans? You know, we have so many tribes in Kenya. Maybe you might be confused, or you can also tell us your identity now as a person. How has all these things affected your lifestyle and the person now you have become, or the person that you want to become? And the pastor will also help us on that angle.
Thank you very much for the good question. I would like to answer by first saying, to me, identity is a series of things, a series of what you choose to take in, because the environment around us does not define us. It's not that because I'm around Kenyans that I will become a Kenyan. It's not that because I'm around, let's say, people who are bad, I become bad. It's up to me to choose the path that I want to choose. It's me to pick from here. What do I pick from Kenyans? What do I pick from my own culture? What do I pick from the people who are surrounding me? If it is the value of honesty, if it is the kindness they have shown me, then I progress it to other people. It is up to me to make up my own identity. Yeah, I'm a Kenyan South Sudanese, proudly, and I have picked good things from here. The bad things that are there, I leave them. I just pick the good. That is how I make myself up to be a better person. So slowly, I will keep picking up. And on the question of my culture, yes, my people are still practicing the same culture that we had, but not fully. There are things that, should I call them backwards? They are backwards. Those ones are left behind. For example, our initiation in South Sudan, by now I would be having, I know you have seen some people, I would be having lines going across my forehead. That is our initiation. But for those people who left, that is a culture that we have pushed aside for the people who have left, and we are adapting other things. And what was the other question? Identity and all that.
Multicultural. You have Luya, Kikuyu, Pasai, Meru. How those things affected you as a person?
Okay. Yeah, Kenya is multicultural. We have, is it 47 tribes? Yeah, we have 47 here, which is way less than what we have in South Sudan. We have 64 tribes. I have interacted with most of the 47 because I've schooled here. I was in high school boarding, so I've interacted with all of them. And as I've said before, you just pick the culture that is good with you. There is a culture that we got from the Arabs, which is still part of Jinubin, as we call ourselves, the Southern Sudanese. As a whole, we call ourselves Jinubin. So there is a culture of inviting someone. You cannot see someone who is next to you, maybe does not have anything to eat, and you just enjoy your food alone and all that. There is that culture. They usually have that thing where maybe if they have a holiday, eat something, they would leave food outside for anyone who is passing. And we adapted that culture. So that is something we have also picked from the Arabs. From Kenyans also, we pick something. The kindness, the way you're welcoming. So from all the 47 tribes, like that, small. I've learned a couple of languages. I can greet in like about 3 languages or 4 different languages here. And I'm hoping to get the others. So, yeah, I have learned and I'm continuing to learn. Thank you very much for the question.
Pastor was supposed to respond. I don't know.
I don't know what else to respond, but maybe the whole question of identity crisis. I think the question really is, why do we, in a sense, face an identity crisis? And you mentioned maybe when people get to teenagehood. Really fundamentally, it depends with what shapes and informs our identity. And whether or not everyone necessarily goes through an identity crisis. So they're usually markers. The reason why teenagehood is such a critical point is because there are various things that are happening within the mind, the body, developmentally of an individual. But also it is the period when you're becoming more perceptive. So for example, I grew up in the slums. And so I went to a boarding school and while I was in the slums, because I studied primary school in the slum, it never bothered me because all of us were poor. In fact, I didn't know I was poor because all of us were, at the same level, so to speak. But now I went to a boarding school and now I was meeting people that were coming from a different socioeconomic background. The poorest was coming from Buru Phase 5. And you can imagine me, I'm coming from Korogocho slums. Such that now when you start being asked, where do you live, where do you come from, it becomes a difficult question to answer because all of a sudden you're ashamed of where you come from, whereas it was not a problem before that. I grew up without a father. It was never a problem where I was because, a majority of us did not have fathers. As I would tell in this room, if you were to do a sample, a majority of us actually grew up without a father. But now I was in an environment where you're being asked, what does your father do? For my father to do something, I need to have a father first. And all of a sudden those things start speaking, into areas of your life that were not there. And it is at that point that I guess if one does not handle that carefully, that then one is at this crisis, because it seems like my identity is shaped by my family structure. So that now that I don't have a father, now I am affected. My identity is shaped by our economic value. Now that it seems that we are poor, it is affected. My identity is shaped by this, that, or the other. And over time, one must learn to base their identity on something a bit more solid than something that keeps fleeting and changing. Otherwise, it becomes extremely impossible. That is why part of maturing up is realizing what is important in life, what is priority in life, and what is not. And therefore, you are able then to base your identity on that which truly matters, and not things that keep fleeting and changing you.
Thank you. We want to take a short musical break, but before we do that, we want to release Worth. And Worth, I know you had come with your friend who is a singer, I think, right?
Yeah.
Is he around?
I'm not seeing him right now.
Amepotea?
Yeah, they were in the.
Is he here?
The photo. No.
Okay, if he's not here, you can give us your parting shot as we have in the music break. Yeah, give us your parting shot, and then if you see him, just tell him to cue.
All right, thank you very much for having me today. And I appreciate that you have considered the refugees that are around us. There are many of us here, and I've tried to maybe bring up issues that some of them have. If there are some that we have not brought up, there will be another episode, and hopefully maybe you'll invite me or another refugee. I appreciate very much having this opportunity to voice the issues of the refugee. Thank you very much.
Tomorrow is World Refugee Day, so where will you be celebrating the day from?
I have no plans for tomorrow. We will be celebrating with family at home. And if anything changes, maybe we'll see in the course of the day.
To begin my coffee. Thank you very much, Will, for coming. I'm sure we'll meet next time, and we'll have many other interviews that we can have, right?
Right.
Thank you very much. So we want to take a short musical break. Hello, you ready?
Yes.
Yeah, you can give me some of the artists we have, and then after that we'll come back and discuss now identity in depth with Pastor Mukaya and also Faith Award. Thank you.
Which is car better yet shine on. I've been in the streets for damn too long. I just gotta make it right or wrong. I learn keep in my mind I forgone. Like I chatting now I know what is on. Most wanna talk don't know what's on. Like a G I say hey move on. Just gotta make it only God knows how. Like a star I'ma shine now and forever. Street is dramatic and never get home. Deep in my soul I know real love flows. So thug love to as they hold them know. Blow like the street taught, you know, whoa. Now this music done, so it's the prophecies. Educate, edutain, name it, whatever.